Hey everyone, this is Hailey from Cartooners, and I want to talk about a new character that we finally saw in the latest episode of Steven Universe. It's just a small new character, no big deal really, just a little gem known as White Diamond. Yeah, like I said, nothing major. Just kidding, White Diamond is a huge deal. Ever since we saw the Diamond Authority logo, many people speculated about her existence and how she would likely be at the top of the gem hierarchy. After all, the most iconic diamonds are white diamonds, so it had always made sense. And here we are, finally, after so many years, not only getting a name drop of White Diamond, but also actually seeing her and even hearing her speak, and relatively soon after learning about Pink Diamond too. I've really been liking how things have been speeding up in a sense, but regardless, today I am here to talk about White Diamond and what ultimately may happen with her. I'm asking the question, will White Diamond eventually be redeemed? As you might remember, I asked this question about Blue and Yellow Diamond as well, and much to my surprise, they seem to have joined Steven's side almost as soon as they learned that Pink Diamond was alive. I don't know if this will be for good, but for the time being it seems that they are just happy to know that their sister is back and want to help her and fix the damage that they caused. But as soon as that problem was fixed, another one was presented as finding a way to ultimately fix the corruption that plagues most gems on Earth. The combination of Yellow, Blue, and Pink Diamond's powers were not enough to permanently reverse the damage caused thousands of years ago when the diamonds attacked Earth once they believed Pink Diamond had been shattered. The conclusion was made that it would also take White Diamond's aid to completely reverse the damage. And that is definitely something that was speculated in many videos on Cartoon Universe, so it was nice to see Yellow Diamond had the same thought. So the logical answer to the question of White Diamond being redeemed is yes. But since Yellow Diamond and Blue Diamond were turned so quickly, something tells me White Diamond will not follow the same path. As we already saw, she was not even fazed by seeing Pink Diamond and what she has become. In fact, she acted like nothing had happened to her, and she was acting as if Pink Diamond was playing dress up. Or perhaps she was talking directly to Steven's gem, where Pink Diamond could in fact communicate to White Diamond, but that's a whole other video topic. White Diamond does not seem like the type to listen to reason or have her mindset quickly changed. If anything, we should be afraid of her controlling other gems and turning them against Steven. But her need to control everything could end up causing her downfall. As many have speculated, it looks as if she is controlling her Pearl, since they share the same voice actor, as well as this Pearl having a similar posture, as well as looking pretty emotionless. The lines coming from White Diamond's body and branching out to all of Homeworld could be compared to neurons in the brain, or something more inorganic like telephone wires. So what if the one thing she cannot control is Steven? She clearly let Pink Diamond do whatever she wanted, but that could be compared to letting a child destroy the room while the adult has to do their work. Playtime is now over, and it seems that White Diamond is grounding Pink Diamond for what she considered to be a game. But history will likely repeat itself, and Steven will not want to put up with White Diamond's nonsense and try to escape. White Diamond may then try to control Steven and realize that she cannot do so. Steven can never be a part of her collection of gems because he is half human and potentially could be immune to White Diamond's powers. White Diamond may realize she lacks what Steven has, and it could be through this realization that Steven can get through to her and show her that loving others is much better than simply controlling them for one's own desires. Perhaps they could form a temporary truce and later go their separate ways once corruption is cured. Or Steven will learn that the power to uncorrupt gems was inside him all along and White Diamond will not be needed in the end. So those are a few ways that things could go by taking just White Diamond into account. But Steven Universe loves its foreshadowing, so perhaps we could apply that to White Diamond as well. As many have noted, there are definite parallels between White Diamond's relationship with Pink Diamond to Marty's relationship with Greg. At one point in time, Marty was Greg's manager who was so greedy to the point where he took 75% of Greg's profits. It was clear that Marty was using Greg, but Greg felt dependent on him. That was of course until he met Rose Quartz and decided to stay with her in Beach City. He kicks Marty out of the van, and they go their separate ways. But they eventually do see each other again years later when Marty is legally obligated to give Greg a $10 million check for a song Greg wrote for a Guacola advertisement. In the end, Greg was a real winner, even if it meant he had to deal with Marty at some point in time. In addition, Greg was Marty's star child, just like Pink Diamond was White's starlight. They had high hopes for the one that they controlled and knew that they would do great things, but eventually when the other became too smart for their tactics, they were pushed away. With all this in mind, perhaps the future for White Diamond will go like this. Just as Greg eventually profited from Marty's actions, Steven will find a way to get White Diamond to uncorrupt all the gems. This, in a way, is a $10 million check that makes so many problems vanish instantly. Then, just as soon as she helped, she will disappear from Steven's life, just like Marty did when he disappeared in Drop Beat Dad. That would mean White Diamond would no longer be an issue, and that would be totally great. although that does sound a bit too easy once again. Yet history often repeats itself, so I do see this as a likely possibility. Now we can look at some other possible inspirations for White Diamond and see if these stories had their characters be redeemed. White Diamond and Homeworld itself do have definite visual parallels to the movie Metropolis, but story-wise there was not too much I could glean from it. And finally, for something I talked about quite a bit when it came to Blue Diamond as well as Lars, are potential anime inspirations. That would be from characters created by Leiji Matsumoto. This time around, White Diamond parallels Queen Promethium, who is the mother of Emeraldus and MYKAL, both of which helped to form the character of Blue Diamond. She has had a few different looks over the years, but one in particular when she was seen with her two daughters gives her an outfit that may have inspired some part of White Diamond's dress. Queen Promethium was the ruler of La Metal, who became cold and ruthless after wanting to achieve eternal life. She becomes a machine man herself and begins to look down upon those with organic bodies. She then made all the citizens of her planet become part of a hive mind, which created the Machine Empire. They did all the work for her, but eventually her overconfidence with the power of her empire led to her and her empire's downfall. Doesn't a lot of that sound familiar? White Diamond is the ruler of the Diamond Authority and Homeworld, a place where all its citizens are inorganic and must fit within a strict hierarchy. She might even be able to control gems to create a hive mind if she wished. She also has daughters in the form of Blue, Yellow, and Pink Diamond. Pink Diamond committed a terrible crime and became organic, the exact opposite of what a gem should be. White Diamond may never understand why Pink did what she did. Why would she ever get rid of her extremely powerful, ever-living form? That's why I believe White Diamond may want to turn Steven into a full gem again, which in this case would mean bringing Pink Diamond back. This ties in really well with Deep Cut's video where he explains that White Diamond may attack Steven in an attempt to poof him. So as Steven Universe makes White Diamond follow the path of Queen Promethium, we may see the destruction of both Homeworld and its ruler, with no real redemption. Oh, one other thing is that Queen Promethium was based on the Roman god Janus, who was the god of time as well as a few other things. Some people think she has time-related powers, and that would be evidence for that theory. But anyways, it is clear that there are many inspirations for White Diamond, as well as parallels to other characters in Steven Universe itself. I do think White Diamond will need to help Steven out, but only time will tell if she eventually becomes less of a threat or will need to be destroyed altogether. Now I'd like to ask, do you think White Diamond will be redeemed? What will her future role in the show be? Let me know in the comments below, and if you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up as well as subscribe to our channel. Follow us at CartoonUV on Twitter or Instagram for updates on future videos and more. My Twitter is at HAK_ERs97, so you can also give me a follow if you want to see what I'm up to. Hint, probably watching cartoons. I would also like to give a huge thank you to Bobo Quail for making our new Steven Universe end card, which will show up at the very end of the video. We will have 2 more end cards for other shows coming up, so keep your eyes peeled for those. If you want a character like this for yourself, they have their commissions open at the moment, so grab one while you can. Thank you guys for watching and have an animated day.